everybody and welcome back to the Blossom Crochet channel. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to make this absolutely beautiful Whirly Modern Baby Blanket, which was a beginner's pattern that I did for the Crochet Now magazine. So you can see it's just a beautiful variation on a granny square for the main body of the blanket, and then you've got some really beautiful border rows which give this amazing finish and texture. Now the pattern itself is available as a download from my new website. The website is still in places a bit under construction, but it is ready enough for you to be able to access files and things like that. So all of the links that you will need will be in the description box. So just so that you know, the pattern is specifically written for a Scheepjes Whirl. So if you've got a Scheepjes Whirl hanging around to use, like I have a couple of here, then this is a pattern that is written specifically for a Scheepjes Whirl. Now I'll just let you quickly know what these colours are just in case. This one is called Nighttime Bubbles and this one is the Melting Macaron, so just so that you know. But it uses pretty much the entire whirl for the project. But I also wanted to show you that it doesn't have to be for a whirl. You can use absolutely any yarn that you like. And this is one that I have made with just regular DK yarn. So this was done using the DK Scheepjes Colour Crafter. And it is the exact same pattern, but just worked with creams and then blocks of colour as well. So this is all done using the exact same pattern for the whole thing. So I just wanted you to see that you could do it in DK as well. And actually for the purpose of the tutorial I'm going to be using a chunky yarn just so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. So we'll just crack on now. I've rambled on for a little bit, but I just wanted to explain about the yarn and that the written pattern is available. But as I say, the pattern is specifically done using a Scheepjes Whirl, so obviously for yardage and things like that, so just bear that in mind. But you can use absolutely anything. So this video is going to be part one, which is going to be the really simple 2-row repeat that you're going to need to complete it. And then the next video, which will come very soon, is the border rows. And I think there's 5 border rows, but I could be wrong. But anyway, yeah, part one is the main body. So as I say, I'm just going to be using some leftover chunky yarn that I have just for the purpose of the tutorial. And this is just some leftover Baby Blossom Chunky in the shade Buttercup, just in case you wanted to know. And so you can obviously work this along with the written pattern if you want to, or you can just use the video tutorial for the square. You don't have to use the whole pattern. You might just want to use part one and just create lots of little squares. You can literally, it's so versatile, you can do whatever you want. So we're going to start by chaining 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we're going to make this into a circle. So you're going to insert your hook into that first chain, yarn over and pull through both to create a circle. You want to chain 2 and that is going to count as your first treble. So please remember I am working in UK terms, so in the US this is your double crochet. That is what you will use throughout the whole of the main body of the blanket. So if you're in the US and you hear me say treble, you know that I mean a US double. So now we want to do 2 more trebles because this first round is just a normal granny round, so that chain 2 counts as the first one. So you want to do 2 more. You're going to yarn over, insert into the centre ring, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the final 2. 1 more, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that is your first granny cluster. A granny cluster will always consist of 3 trebles. We want to create the corner, so we're going to chain 2, and then back into this ring we're going to do a granny cluster. So you'll do 3 more trebles. So you will be very used to doing a UK treble by the end of this round alone. That's 2, yarn over, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that is another granny cluster. Chain 2 again to create the next corner, and then you want another granny cluster. So 3 trebles. 1, 2, 3. So we're pretty much all the way around for our beginning round now. Chain 2 for that corner again, and then you want 1 final granny cluster, so you'll have your 4 sides once you've completed this final set. So 1, 2, and 3. So that is our 4 sides complete. You now want to make sure that you finish your last corner, so you want to chain 2, and then we're going to slip stitch to the top of the chain 2 that we did at the beginning of the round. So you'll insert your hook and then yarn over and pull through both of those loops. So that is the very beginning of your square. So this blanket is simply a 2-row repeat, so you'll have a traditional granny row, and then you'll have a solid granny round. So now to move on, because I like to turn my squares to keep them perfectly straight. I mean, I do squares where I don't turn and they do stay straight, but a lot of people were asking me for tips on how to stop that twisting of granny squares, which I know that some people have issues with. So to turn, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to turn around, and then we're going to slip stitch back into that corner chain 2 space. So you'll slip stitch into that corner chain 2. So to start this round, you're going to chain 2, and again that's going to count as your first treble, and then back into that chain 2 space you're going to put a treble. So this now is going to be a solid granny square round. So we're only going to have 2 trebles in the first half of this corner, and we will finish it when we get back round. We're then going to put 1 treble into the top of the trebles from the last round. So you'll have 1 treble in each of these 3 stitches. So when you do your trebles, make sure that you work through the whole of the stitch from the row below by getting that V. And then, so you'll complete your 3. That's 1 into the top of the next. That's 2, and into the top of the final treble. That's 3, and then you're at your corner space. So a corner space on a solid granny square round is going to be 2 trebles. So 1 and 2, chain 2 to create your new space, and then back into that same corner space you will do 2 trebles. So your solid granny corners are treble, treble, chain 2, treble, treble. And then again you're just going to do 1 treble into the top of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. So again, now you're at your corner, so I will leave you now to just complete this round. So you'll do your 2 trebles in your corner, chain 2 to create the new corner space, and then back in that same chain 2 you'll do 2 trebles. 1 and 2. And now you can just finish off by doing your trebles along into the top of these trebles, your next corner, and I will meet you in just a second and we will finish off the round. So I'm completing that corner, so I've got my 2 trebles, chain 2, 2 trebles, and then I've got this final side now to work along. So you're going to do 1 treble into the top of each of these 3 stitches. This third and final stitch might be a little bit trickier to work into the top of that treble, but you can see there is a nice hole there to work into. So 1 treble to each of those 3 stitches, so make sure you get that last treble, and then you're back at your final corner space. So you remember we started with the 2 trebles, so we just need to do the final 2 trebles for this corner. So 1 and 2, chain 2, don't forget to do that final chain 2, and then slip stitch to the top of that chain 2 from the beginning. So insert your hook and slip stitch. So that now is your solid granny round. So now we want to move back to a traditional granny square round. So again, you'll chain 1 and turn and slip stitch back into your chain space. So now that we're back on the traditional granny, we're going to chain 2, which will again always count as your first stitch. And then we want a granny cluster, so we need to do 2 more trebles into that chain 2 space. So 1 and 2. So that is now a granny cluster because we've got our 3 trebles. So that is your first half of the corner. We want to chain 1. So we're going to be doing a chain 1 in between all of our granny clusters. We're going to skip the next 3 trebles. So you're going to skip 1, 2 and 3, and into this 4th one you're going to do a granny cluster. So you're going to do 3 trebles into that 4th stitch. So that's 1, 2 and 3. So you've got 3 trebles into the 1 stitch, chain 1, and we're back to a corner space. So we're going to do 3 trebles because this is a traditional granny round. So 1, 2, 3, and then again we want to create our new corner, so we're going to do a chain 2, and then back into that same corner space you'll do your next granny cluster. So 3 trebles. Chain 1, because we're going to be working back along our straight side. So your clusters along the straight sides will always be separated with a chain 1. Skip 3 trebles, and into the 4th you will do your granny cluster. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then your corner space, which will be your granny cluster, chain 2, granny cluster. And so you should be able to pause now and rewind if you need to, and just continue working this traditional granny square round, and I will meet you towards the end in just a sec. So I'm just working this final bit now. So I've done my granny cluster and a chain 1, and then I'm going to skip those final trebles and go directly into that last corner space, and we're going to finish off by doing a granny cluster because we started off with 1 already, 2 and 3. Do that final chain 2 to create that last corner and slip stitch to the beginning of the round. So that is how you should be looking so far. You'll have a traditional granny round, a solid granny round, and a traditional granny round. So that granny round will be the one that you're able to repeat when you need to. So we're going to move on now to a solid round. So chain 1 and turn and slip stitch back to that chain space. So just in the way as we did for the last granny round, solid granny round, we will chain 2 and then 1 treble into that corner space. And we're going to do 1 treble into the top of each treble, and we're also going to do 1 treble into the chain 1 space in between the granny clusters from the last round. So 1 into the top of each stitch, 2, 3, and then 1 into that chain 1 space. And you'll just work that all the way along the side. 2, 3, and then 1 into the chain 1 space, and then your final ones, 1, 2, 3. You're then at your corner, so again, solid granny round will be 2 trebles, chain 2, and back in that same corner space, 2 trebles. And then again, you're just going to work along your straight side. So it is super easy, this bit. So if you continue that around, and I will join you again at the other end, and we will close off this round. So I've worked my solid row, and I've done my 3 into those final 3 trebles, and again you need to finish off with 2 trebles in your corner space. So 1 and 2, do your final chain 2 and slip stitch to the start of the round. So I will just start off the next row with you, just so that you know how to work your your traditional granny stitches along this now, because obviously we've got lots more trebles to be working into. So that is your solid round that you'll be able to repeat over and over again. So again, chain 1, turn and slip stitch back to your corner space, chain 2, and then we're back on the traditional granny round, so you want 2 more trebles in that corner space to create your granny cluster. Chain 1, remember we're chaining 1 in between our clusters along the straight edge. And then skip 3, so 1, 2, 3, and do a granny cluster into the 4th, so 3 trebles in that 4th stitch along. Three, chain 1, and again skip 3 stitches and cluster into the 4th. Chain 1, skip 3 and cluster in the 4th again. Oops. And always remember that chain 1, and then again you're skipping those final 3 and doing your granny clusters in the corners. So cluster, create your new corner with your chain 2, and then again the granny cluster back into that corner space. So it is a really simple 2-row repeat to create the main body of your blanket. So you should be able now just to use that part of the tutorial to create the main body of the blanket. And let me just move that for 1 second and bring back the finished whirl blanket. So like I say, there is a downloadable PDF pattern, and even though it is written specifically with amounts with the Scheepjes Whirl and things, you can make your blanket absolutely any size using chunky yarn like I have for the tutorial, or using DK yarn like with that rainbow blanket I showed you at the beginning, or you can do it with the whirl. you want to complete if you're doing it with the whirl following the pattern, you will be completing 38 rounds, and that includes the very beginning as well. So when you've done 38 rounds, you should be ending on a solid granny round. You can't quite see because of the post stitches, but we've got 38 rounds, and the final one is the round of solids here. So you'll do 38 if you're using the Scheepjes Whirl and finish on a solid, but no matter what yarn you're using, you want to make sure for the purpose of the border that you finish with a solid granny round. So that is part 1, so that is your main body of the blanket, and part 2 will be coming very soon with these beautiful delicate border rows. So that will be coming very soon. Make sure you check out the links in the description. All of the information that you need should be there. The link to the pattern, the link to all the yarns that I've featured, everything like that should be there ready to go. But thanks for joining me for the Whirly Modern Baby Blanket. I know that you've had a little bit of a wait for it, but I really hope that you've enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, as always, pop them down in the comments and I will try my very best to get back to all of them if possible. I'm actually really liking the way that this Baby Blossom Chunky is working up, so I think I'm actually going to continue with this and just get as much as I can out of it. So that is it for this one, everybody, and I will see you again very soon for the border part for the Whirly Modern Baby Blanket. Bye for now.